What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad Sean, and today we're gonna do a modern record.
Yes, we are.
The most modern record we've done on the channel thus far, Phoebe Bridgers' Stranger in the Alps, and this comes courtesy of one of our main dudes, Josh.
That's right,
Davis, our patrons. Appreciate you suggesting this to us, Josh. I wasn't familiar with these songs, though I'm a little bit familiar with some of the artists that Phoebe she associates herself with. I never listened to her, so this was a fun.
Oh, it's great, man.
Fun record to dive into. And if this is your first time stopping by the channel, we appreciate it. Hear reactions to the classics. We take a look back at some of the most classic albums of all time, old and new, and do detailed track-by-track reviews of them. So that sounds like something interesting to you. Be sure to hit that big red subscribe button, and if you would like to suggest a record to us or a song, you can hit us up at Patreon and the link down below, as well as check out our Facebook group. But all that to say, man, let's just get into the quick facts.
This is her debut studio album, released in September of 2017. She's been writing music since she was 11, performing live since she was in her mid-teens. The title of the album is a wordplay off a line in the Big Lebowski. When it was censored for television, this was the line that was put in there. This album was very critically acclaimed. And the most interesting thing I found about the recording process, Trey, is they turned off all the lights in the studio. She wanted to sing in the dark. All she could see was the engineer and the light coming off the board and the computer screen. She said it's a very different experience when you are singing to yourself. So that brings us to the first song, Smoke Signals. She's writing to someone who is trying to get her attention, even talks about making the smoke signals on the beach. It is a tremendous way to start this album. It really sets the tone.
Oh, absolutely. And this is, along with some of the other tracks, written about her ex, Marshall Vore.
Yes.
And there's a line in there that kind of alludes to that. One of your eyes is always half shut. Something happened when you were a kid. I didn't know you then, and I'll never understand. While it feels like I did, her ex has a little bit of like a drooping eye. So, and just right away you can hear just how beautiful her voice is, and just that's kind of the focal of the song and entire record.
Yeah, it is.
And the instrumentation though itself still lends a nice backing.
It does, and almost the whole album, the instrumentation is pretty stripped back, so because her voice is so good. This one was over 5 minutes long, so tremendous way to start this thing. Then we're gonna jump into the only song I knew, Motion Sickness. This song is more upbeat instrumentally. The electric guitar is in there a lot more. It's a tremendous track. It turns out she wrote this to Ryan Adams because he had recorded her first EP in 2015 called Killer, where there's actually the title track of that we're gonna get to later on this album. He had a disease, well, he probably still does, but it kept him from making music for a while, called Meniere's disease. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And it gives you motion sickness. So on this song, she says, you gave me emotional motion sickness. And there's a bunch of allegations at Ryan. I'm not gonna get into all that, but she was one of them that backed up those allegations. So when you know that and you listen to the lyrics of this song, very personal, very impassioned, but also a very catchy song.
Oh, absolutely. And I thought this was the best song, like instrumentally.
Yes, I did too.
And it's probably my favorite song. Just
it is mine as well.
In general, I like how the effects and panning of the guitar almost makes you feel dizzy.
Yeah, and I think that was the idea. It's a very nice touch if you're listening to that in the headphones. Yeah, very good point.
So it almost is like you're getting a little motion sickness
yes.
as you're listening to the track. So I thought that was a wonderful touch, and she again just brings forth some great lines. There are no words in the English language I could scream to drown you out. I can hardly feel anything at all. Just a lot of a heartfelt, some might say melancholic, depressing type lyrics permeate this entire record. And,
yes.
You know, that's I think one of the charms of it. So I was a big fan of that. And then we go into another really depressing tune called Funeral. This is probably the most melancholic song
I would think so, yeah.
on the record. This was written about a friend of hers that had passed away from a drug overdose.
Yeah.
So just knowing that coming in right away, she mentions in the first verse how she was talking to that dead friend's dad, and it just kind of like hit her. And then she goes through and mentions how she's down in the dumps and depressed and all this stuff, but she notes that, well, other people kind of have it worse. Her friend's dead type of deal, which is something people with depression go through. They kind of think, well, I shouldn't be feeling this because somebody else has it worse. Just again, beautiful arrangements here. I loved it.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. You covered it really well. It's haunting. She did mention that her and a lot of her friends think about death a lot, and she said that kind of permeated throughout a lot of this album. So I thought it was quite the contrast from the last song. That's going to move us on to DEMI More, which I was wondering why it was titled this, but I found out. Someone misheard the lyric, I don't want to be stoned anymore, as I don't want to be stoned, DEMI More. On this, she calls someone and doesn't want to be alone. It's not a bad track. I'm not a huge fan of the backing instrumentation on this. It's my least favorite track so far, but there's not a bad track on this album.
No.
But for me, this one was the one that I would not probably spin again of the first.
I'd agree with that. That just, I think, shows how strong the first three.
Yeah, it does.
Three tunes are. Again, shows just she's tired, sad, longing to be with somebody.
Yeah.
She mentions at the end she's got a good feeling, but it doesn't happen very often. So again, continuing that type of theme throughout this first side, and then we move on to track number 5.
Scott Street, and it's named after a real street in LA. It's actually Scott Avenue, but it probably didn't sound as well, in the song. It's also about Marshall Vore. Him and her used to spend a lot of time there. It's around some recording studios and some places they used to practice at. It's over 5 minutes long, and I absolutely love this song.
Oh, me too, man.
It's a standout, man.
I think the subject matter is great and something a lot of people can relate to, running into like an ex-lover after time has
Yeah, and how
passed.
awkward it is. It's just weird because you knew them at such a level, and now it's like, hey man, how you doing?
It even mentions that, like, oh, I heard your sister graduated, and I thought it was a nice touch because she asked, because Marshall Vore is a drummer, and it asked how he was playing the drums, and then boom, the drums kick in right at that moment. I thought that was great, and then at the end it's like, oh, don't be a stranger type of thing, because that's what people always say.
In awkward situations, usually like, don't be a stranger, or do.
And so that kind of ties in with the old Stranger in the Alps type of title there, so I thought it was a great tune.
Yeah, it's tremendous.
And track 6 takes us to Killer, which is off of her debut EP from the same name. She said this is about just like toxic feelings and thoughts. Goes through her psyche there throughout the song, thinks about like killing her lover just to keep him there, but he'd be dead, so that'd be a little weird.
Be a problem eventually,
And then as the song progresses, we get some male backing vocals in the chorus, which I thought were a nice touch, as well as then she starts to kind of shift her tone in a little bit and thinks about what if she was dying and had him by there to like pull the plug. So like, what if somebody was there with you till your dying day type of thing.
Yeah, I thought the lyrics on this are tremendous, man. A very, very well written song. You kind of covered it. I mean, she's going to try to hold on to him however she can. Those are the thoughts in her head. That takes us to Georgia. She said it's the earliest song she wrote back in her mid-teenage years. She said it's simply about she dated someone from Georgia, and it's kind of a song about her needing that validation, kind of the first time she was in a serious relationship and needed to know that she was wanted and valued. So I thought it was a good song. I didn't think it was a great song. It's one of the weaker tracks for me, although every song is pretty good on this.
Yeah, I enjoyed the like string type of arrangement that accompanied her great voice, and then the song just climaxes at the end. We get a musical explosion, and then we end with some of, I think, the best lines on the record. And if I breathe you, will it kill me? Will you have me or watch me fall? If I fix you, will you hate me? Just again, exploring some of the nooks and crannies of a relationship and kind of being infatuated, I guess, with a potential lover. So then that's going to move us on, man. We're plugging along.
We are. We're going to move on to Chelsea, track number 8. This is quite the odd subject matter to me, but it's about Nancy Spungen and Sid Vicious, and Nancy ended up murdered and Sid ended up killing himself, and everybody thinks he killed her and killed himself. They were at the Chelsea Hotel. That's where you get Chelsea. So I thought that was a odd subject matter.
Definitely unique.
She said she wrote it when she was 16. Now the music itself is good. I would not have known that was what it was about unless I researched it, so it can kind of be about whatever you want it to be about, but that is what it's about.
Yeah, very, very subtle in there. I mean, she notes at a certain point like the kind of the hotel like bell service type of deals, and her lover wants to be alone, but she tells him and knows that she's always going to be with him in his memories, kind of whether he wants to or not, and then eventually she just bids him adieu to the prison boy. So I enjoyed it. Not one of my like top favorites or anything, but it's still a solid track nonetheless. And we're gonna move on to track number 9.
Would You Rather, featuring Connor Oberst. He is the lead vocalist for the indie rock band Bright Eyes, and they actually do some stuff together now. This is about her brother Jackson, who filmed the song's video. She's also stated it's about domestic violence, and you can get that if you read the lyrics of this are tremendous. And Connor comes in on this in the backing vocals and comes in with this little chorus part, and that part, I mean, it just, man, this song is so good. It is one of my favorites on here. It is an absolute standout. The acoustic guitar is great on here. The lyrical performance by both Connor and Phoebe are just next level, and this is definitely one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, and when you know it's kind of coming from the lens of her and her brother, it makes for a nice read whenever you're going through the lyrics, and it touches on depression, suicide, domestic violence, as you mentioned. But even through that, there is a subtle hope, kind of with the music and the lyrics in here, and just the way that Phoebe delivers her vocals on this. So I like that even through the fire, you're kind of looking and trying to just survive to another day.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think that's a theme kind of throughout this record at points, being realistic of what the situation is, but continuing to soldier on. And then we close out the last proper song with a cover, one that I'm really a big fan of. You Miss My Heart. It's a cover of Mark Kozelek and Jimmy Lavelle track. Phoebe said that she heard it and just fell in love with it, and she had to not only just read the lyrics and listen to it a bunch, but perform it herself to really get in with the track. And about 6 minutes long, longest song on the record. It just details a very intense story of an ex-boyfriend coming in. He looks for his ex. Her current boyfriend is there.
Yep.
He gets the shiv, stabs,
kills him, and the guy tells him, "You got me good, but you missed my heart."
And then he goes and gets on top of his ex-girlfriend, says all the things that he loved about her, and then she says, "Well, you mentioned everything, but you didn't really hit the emotions. You missed my heart."
Boom.
Man, unbelievable. Cops come in. He goes to jail. He tries to hang himself.
Yep. Isn't able to. Then eventually he gets shot in the prison yard. I'm guessing he's trying to escape. And he's laying there and basically tells me, "You got me good, but you missed my heart." But then he ends up dying. I mean, what an epic story, man.
It really was. And as he's dying, he like has a flashback of his life, of all the great moments of where he was out there fishing just down the road from the graveyard he's about to be in.
That's right. Yeah, it was quite a journey, these last two songs.
Oh yeah, this was definitely one of my favorite tracks on the record, one I'm going to be revisiting a ton. And even though it's a cover and she didn't write the song, she brought her own unique twist to it.
She did, and it fit. I mean, it fits the album absolutely perfectly. Sometimes when artists throw in a cover out of the blue, when they've written the rest of the material, it's like, this doesn't really fit, but it fits perfectly.
Oh, yeah. And then we finish off just with a little instrumental theme from Smoke Signals, and
it's only 30-something seconds. Yeah, it's a good way to kind of bookend it.
Exactly, I did enjoy that, and then that'll take us to our favorite tracks. For me, I'd have to go with Motion Sickness.
I agree.
I'll throw Funeral in there, as well as You Missed My Heart.
And I would put Would You Rather on there as well. So, I mean, 4 of the 10 proper songs are favorites of mine. That brings us to our overall score. I like albums like this. So this is not something, I think, if you spun this thing day after day, a few times a day, you might need therapy, because it's a pretty heavy, it's a very heavy, almost depressing album in some ways, but I really like it. It's tremendous. I thank you so much, Josh, for recommending her, because this is an album I will definitely revisit. I'm going to give it an 8.5, man.
I love it, man. I'm going to be right in that area with you. 8.25 for me. Just the
talent, man. The singer-songwriter. Just her voice is tremendous.
And I really enjoy the current wave of indie, singer-songwriter, female artist. Julian Baker's one of my favorites, who Phoebe is associated with, and Boy Genius, and so I'm glad that I was able to properly check her out in this. So thank you, Josh, for that. Just a wonderful record, and I think people that don't listen to a lot of modern music, I would suggest you check this out.
I definitely would as well.
I think you'd enjoy it. I really do. And let us know what you think of this record in the comments below. And thanks, Dad, as always, for the research.
It was a lot of fun.
Be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We do do reviews, reactions, live streams, a bunch of fun stuff. I'm sure you'll love it in the community we got here. And until next time, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Happy listening, and we will see you next time.